Hey, what's up? Welcome to Youth First at Home. Hey, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like, man, there are so many things that's fighting for my attention, so many voices that's fighting for my ear, if you will. And I think in this season, and honestly in every season, it's really important to pay attention to who we are allowing to be a voice in our lives. Typically, there are about three voices that we have. There's the voice of God. There's the voice of others in our lives that we've given influence. They have some type of influence with us. And then also there's the voice of the enemy. And it's very important to pay attention to who we give weight, who we give access to speak into our lives. And even as I say, the voice of God, some of you are saying, man, does God, asking the question, does God speak to me? I want you to know that he absolutely does speak to you. And now it's not this audible voice of, hello, my child, right? It's not this audible voice. And if that's been your experience, then cool. But for me, it's oftentimes through creation, that God will speak to me through his creation. In fact, the other day, my family and I, we were out on a walk, and man, the birds, they were turning up. They were on a whole nother level, and just singing and all kind of stuff. And I stopped and paused because I realized that God was speaking to me in that moment, that with everything that's going on in our world, with everything that's happening around us, it's like he said, man, look up, look at the birds. Look how they're just flying and having a good time and singing and all these things. You know, they don't have to worry about how things are going to turn out. They don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, but yet it arrives, yet it appears. So how much more for you, Michael, will I provide for you? And it was just like that simple way through his creation that God was speaking to me. And so what I'm trying to tell you is, man, God's speaking to you, but maybe the way in which he's speaking is not a way that you knew that God communicates, but he communicates through the most subtle of ways. You know, God also speaks and communicates through others, right? That he will oftentimes confirm to us through others what he's speaking. And so maybe that may be a youth pastor or a mentor or a leader, or maybe it's your parents that they'll confirm to you what God has already been speaking to you. But there's another voice that we have to pay attention to, and that's the voice of the enemy. You know, the voice of the enemy will disguise itself as the truth. That there will be some bit of truth within what he's speaking, but ultimately it's a lie. There's a distortion that's there. It's not really reality. In fact, we can see that in Scripture, in Genesis, where he distorts the truth of what God said to Adam and Eve. Or even in Matthew chapter 4, where he takes the Scriptures out of context in his attempt to tempt Jesus. But friends, here's what we have to know, is that the voice of the enemy will always lead to destruction, while the voice of God will lead to purpose. And so what we have to do in our lives is we have to center ourselves, settle ourselves, position ourselves, if you will, to be able to hear the voice of God. Because the reality, he's always speaking. But the question, it hinges on the fact of, well, are we listening? Position yourself to listen. You say, well, what's one of the ways to hear God's voice? I'll give you the best, surefire way to hear the voice of the Lord. That is to get in his word. That is to read the Bible. Because the truth is, God will not say anything to you that he hasn't already said in his word. In fact, anything that you feel that you hear, it's only what God has already said, and he's confirming to you through his word. And so maybe if you say, well, where do I begin? Start with the Gospels. I love Mark. Mark, the book of Mark, he jumps right into action. And read his word and allow yourself to ask yourself questions. Well, what is this speaking to me? Right, what is this saying? Right, what is God trying to reveal to me through his word, through his scriptures? Friends, God speaks through his word. And I want you to get this message, because I don't want you to settle for the counterfeit that the enemy is presenting. Because he will always come with a counterfeit to the truth of what God has said. Instead, I want you to walk into the fullness of what God has for you. And that is only attainable, that is only available for us when we walk according to his word. And so find yourself in his word today. We've got lots of time on our hands these days. So find yourself in his word and find yourself walking in God's purpose for your life. Hey, until next time, this has been Youth First at Home. We love you guys. We're praying for you, and we cannot wait to connect soon. Love you guys.